Hidden costs are really frightening, especially if you've never been through the process before. If you're a first-time buyer, a lot of people are very, very nervous about what costs are going to come in they haven't maybe budgeted for. What should people be looking out for, Craig?
Some lenders charge things like application fees, which will be about £100. But the two big things to consider are clearly the mortgage rate, so whether it's, say, 4%, 5%, etc. And then also, is there a product fee? So most lenders have a range of fee-free products where the rate's normally higher, so it may be, say, 5% with no fee, or maybe, say, 4.5% with a £1,000 fee. Now, clearly, the thing for you there is to consider both of those. So if you were to buy a really expensive house, then you'd possibly be better off paying the £1,000 fee and getting the 4.5% rate in that example. If you were buying a house for £50,000, you're probably better off taking the higher rate and not paying the fee. But you need to look at both of those things and work out how long you're going to be paying them for. One of the key things to bear in mind when you're looking at getting your home, being a first-time buyer, is that the rates out there at the moment are historically low. They've never been as low as this in, I think, 300 years, 250 years or something. So they're really low. So don't just look at what you're paying now. And like I say, if you're in a fixed term for 2 or 5 years, that helps because you know how much you're going to pay. But there's a pretty good possibility at the end of that fixed period, mortgage rates will have gone up, so you may have to pay more. So it's really important you kind of think, right, well, if mortgage rates were to rise by 2 or 3%, then could I still afford it? And again, that's something you should talk to an advisor on to make sure that you can afford it, not just now, but in the future as well.
I think the important point, though, really, is that if you're a first-time buyer, if I was a first-time buyer today, there's no way on earth I would push myself financially to the limit on a house purchase now. You might not be able to predict what interest rates are going to be like in a year's time, 2 years' time, or 3 years' time. But I think you would be mad to not sit down and budget for all of your general living costs, which are generally going to go up anyway. Fuel prices, food prices generally are increasing. And to not leave a reasonable cushion there to allow some form of contingency for a rise in your mortgage repayments would be madness, to be honest. You've got to remember all the wasted costs. Stamp duty. Yeah. It's just a big tax. Straight away. I'm assuming you're not going to buy something over £2 million, but that's 7% tax now, which is just a huge amount of money on something like that. All of your legal costs, not massively expensive, but still a cost. Removal cost. Agents' fees if you're selling something already, which you wouldn't be if you're a first-time buyer, but those costs are quite a lot. And people forget about all the costs because you put your estate agent's figure down at 1.5%, 2%, but then you'll forget they're going to charge you VAT on that. There's all those tiny little things that when you look at the bottom line at the very end, you go, oh my God, that's I've spent £30,000 more than I was going to do. Really, you've got to make sure you've got absolutely every single penny laid out.
Another interesting one that's not really come to the fore. Obviously, every property for sale for rent has now got an energy performance certificate. And they're not really massively understood, but you wouldn't actually dream of buying a fridge unless it was A-rated. But again, emotionally, you get carried away looking at a property, but the ongoing running costs are a really massive factor.
Huge.
It's not fully come through in property values yet. But with energy costs increasing, a property that is well insulated, which costs a fair amount of money to do, but there are some great subsidies around to do it. But looking into that as well, is it solid walls as opposed to cavity walls? Crikey, that's going to cost more to run. Double glazing, is that easy to put in? What subsidies and grants can I get?
If someone goes into the bank to speak to a mortgage advisor, will they run them through all the potential costs of everything and say you've got to think about your building's insurance be this much, you're going to have to pay this and this? Will they hold their hand through that process? Absolutely,
they'll hold their hand through that process because we'll go through, Holly was talking about earlier, how much to spend on each of these things. Clearly they have to have buildings insurance, that's normally part of the mortgage condition because clearly the bank needs to look after its investment. Most people take out contents insurance, although they don't necessarily need to. And then there's things like, do they want mortgage protection insurance, all these different things. So they'll basically sit down and work out affordability based on how much money you've got coming in and how much money you're going out. And that model will include how much you intend to spend on insurance.